Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the No DQ live recap of AEW Dynamite for September the 23rd, 2020. I will also be giving my thoughts on some of the happenings that took place during WWE NXT. We do have TakeOver coming up in a few weeks, although no special name for this TakeOver. Also, I will be talking about the Road Warriors. Of course, the big news. Road Warrior Animal passed away at the age of 60. Big loss for the wrestling world. I will be discussing Animal at the end of the video. Make sure you stay tuned for that. Thank you to everybody in the chat room for watching. I appreciate you guys very much. Let's go ahead and get started. Both AEW and NXT kicked off their shows with a graphic in memory of Animal. That was very cool. And I'm hoping WWE will do a full-blown video package on Smackdown. They have all the footage of Animal, and it would be really nice to have a big video package remembering Animal and the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, their whole career. We kicked off AEW Dynamite with Kip Sabian and Miro teaming up against Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela. Sabian introduced Miro as the best man, of course. Now, my thought process when I saw this match announced, I'm thinking, why are you doing a tag match? Why not just have Miro in a singles match? Have him come out there and destroy somebody. But you know what? You're doing a tag match. Miro can just come in, beat up Sonny and Joey, and everything's good. Problem is, AEW felt like they had to do a long tag team match with these guys. Miro would tag in, and then Sabian would tag himself back in, and Sabian worked the first 5 minutes or so of the match, a good portion of the early part of the match. Crowd was into Miro, of course, chanting, "We love Miro." Miro finally tagged in, started taking care of business, beating up people. Sabian tagged back in. Instead of just finishing off these guys, Sabian gets tagged in for some reason. Match keeps going on back and forth. And then Sonny, after getting beat up for a while, tagged in Joey. Joey ran in. Joey took a shot at Miro on the apron. Miro got pissed off and he charged at Joey. Joey ducked down and Miro flew over the top rope and started selling his ankle. You had Joey and Sonny start to make a comeback here, but eventually Miro got back in the ring, hit the Mashka kick, and then the accolade. Not sure what they're going to call those moves now. JR called it Miro's version of the camel clutch. And Miro picked up the victory, submitting Sonny Kiss. Match went on way too long. Miro looked fantastic. Miro looks like a superstar. Miro is even more jacked up than he was in WWE. He could have beaten all three guys if this was a 3-on-1 match in 3 minutes. I believe it. So why did they go 10 plus minutes with these guys? I don't know. It's AEW's philosophy where everyone's got to look good. But here's the thing. You have an upper card, you have a mid card, and you have a lower card. Sabian, Sonny, and Joey, they're prelim guys. Not everybody can be a big star. And if you want to protect them, you want to give them some offense, then do not book them with Miro. Put Miro in there with one of those trainers from QT Marshall's school. Let Miro win short 2 to 3 minute matches similar to what Goldberg did. Goldberg would come out there and beat people up. That's what I want to see Miro do. I want to see Miro go out there and destroy people. That's what I want to see as a viewer. I do not want to see him working 10 plus minute tag matches with prelim guys. I'm sorry, Tony Khan, but if you want to make Miro a superstar, you got to book him like a superstar. And not just Goldberg, but the Road Warriors. The Road Warriors went out there and destroyed people. Ryback in 2012, he destroyed people. And Braun Strowman in 2016, he destroyed people. And I know people get mad when Strowman beats Miz and Morrison in a handicap match, but Strowman, he is the man. And nobody should be touching him. Now, I would not have booked Miz and Morrison against Strowman in the first place. And Miz and Morrison, quite frankly, are bigger stars than Sonny Kiss and Kip Sabian and Joey Janela. I mean, you got Miro there, and then you got three guys that look like indie wrestlers. So that's my take on it. I would have done it differently. I would have had Miro come out there and beat up a random trainee from QT Marshall School and build up Miro over the next several weeks. Have him win short 2-3 minute squash matches. If you want to protect your Joey Janela's, then don't book Joey Janela and Miro in a match. Moving on here, we had Eddie Kingston. I almost called him Kofi Kingston. Eddie Kingston came to the ring. He told the production people to keep the hard camera on him because he's got something important to say. He not only was not eliminated from the Battle Royal, he said, but it's been 18 years that he's busted his ass and he deserves a world title match against Jon Moxley. So basically, what happened was Lance Archer was supposed to be in a 6-man match against Moxley and Moxley's guys. But Lance Archer announced on Twitter earlier today that he tested positive for COVID-19. Archer was not on the show, and thus Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley in a world title match to make up for the 6-man match was announced. And I applaud AEW for that, giving the fans a suitable replacement. Something happened, a match had to be canceled, you give them a world title match. I'm totally cool with it. And Kingston cuts a great promo. He said that Jon Moxley sold out. They were buddies back in the day, but Moxley sold out and went to the land of sports entertainers. Another shot at WWE. There you go. AEW just cannot help themselves, of course. But when WWE appears to be triggered by having Lana get put through a table every week, then I do not blame AEW for taking the shots at WWE. Moxley came out, got in Eddie's face. Security broke them up. Nice angle. I like it. Moxley in the main event. I think Moxley is moving numbers. I think it's the right move to build up a world title match. Moxley defending the title should help AEW get a pretty good number this week. Next up, we had Adam Page versus Evil Uno. Last week, I was critical about Kenny Omega on commentary, so what do? Naturally, they bring him back again. They showed me. You had the Dark Order out there, and they teased attacking Page when Page was thrown to the entrance ramp. Omega teased that maybe he would leave the commentary desk and help out his former tag team partner, but did not do it, and turns out his instinct was correct because Page was able to make a comeback on his own and picked up the win with the buckshot lariat. So that storyline continues. It was fine. And yes, as Kim Hall points out, Eddie Kingston actually called Vince McMahon the devil. Lots of people have over the years. Austin Smith with a $5 super chat, first one of the evening. Thank you, Austin. I appreciate it. He says, Miro looked awesome. AEW is great, but needs quicker matches, I think. I agree with that. I have no problems with long matches. But on TV, I think you got to move the show at a faster pace. And some matches do not need to be 10 minutes. A Miro match doesn't need to be 10 minutes unless he's in there with a guy he's been feuding with on a pay-per-view. Just my take on that. We had Tony Schiavone talking to Matt Jackson backstage. And Matt was like, yeah, he should not have put his hands on an announcer and referee, him and his brother Nick. But he was also insulting these people by not really knowing what their names are. And Tony started asking about FTR. Matt was not amused by this. He took Tony's phone and smashed it. And then he threw some cash in the air and basically gave Tony some money for an upgrade. How nice of Matt Jackson. Looks like the heel turn for the Young Bucks continues. Segment was fine. We had Orange Cassidy versus Mr. Brodie Lee for the TNT Championship. Pretty usual shenanigans with the Dark Order out there. John Silver was throwing a fit. Anna Jay was getting on the apron. Orange Cassidy put his sunglasses on her. Orange was doing his kicks, which Brodie just completely no-sold, of course, and wiped out Orange. Orange was able to fight back. I mean, Brodie kept pounding on Orange, but Orange would stay in the fight. Orange went for a dive onto the Dark Order, but they caught him, and then Brodie did a dive to Orange. Brodie dominated for a while, but Orange stayed in the fight, and Orange used his quickness to make a comeback. And he even managed to take out the Dark Order members at ringside. Silver accidentally hit 10, I believe, with the TNT title on the outside. Orange got a near fall, and then Silver came into the ring and literally took a bullet for Brodie Lee. Brodie managed to capitalize on this and hit the lariat to pin a very game Orange Cassidy. I get it. You want to protect Orange. You know, he beat Jericho and he's on a bit of a rush right now, but I don't know. I felt like it kind of made Brodie look weak. The fact that he needed the help of all the Dark Order guys to beat Orange Cassidy. You know, these random guys in masks, John Silver coming in, and all these other people needed to get involved. Like 7 or 8 people needed to help Brodie Lee beat Orange Cassidy. Not sure how I feel about that. I think it's a little bit ridiculous personally. After the match was over, the lights went out. No, it was not The Undertaker. It was the returning Cody Rhodes. About a 5-week absence for Cody. And he means business now, folks. He is pissed off because his hair is dark again. No more bleach blonde hair. Cody is a man on a mission now. He got in the ring, beat up the Dark Order guys, and Brodie Lee took off. Backstage, Brodie was pissed off. He said he's going to cut Cody down. And he basically challenged Cody to a dog collar match. Cody just loves his 80s wrestling. He's got to recreate all these moments. You know, he did the thing with Tony Schiavone in the limousine, like a flair for the gold. And now he's got to do the dog collar match. He's got to top Roddy Piper and Greg Valentine from the first Starrcade. And Cody has 1 week to answer. Obviously, he's gonna accept, and we're gonna get the modern day dog collar match with Brodie Lee and Cody, probably at the Full Gear pay-per-view, maybe sooner. I mean, we still have some time until Full Gear. They could end up doing it on the October 14th Dynamite. And Kev says it's weird seeing Cody with dark hair now. I agree. I've been so used to him with the bleach blonde hair that it's really strange to see him with the dark hair again. We had Matt Hardy come out to the ring with Private Party for a promo. It was his birthday. He thanked the fans for cheering for him. He talked about who was the person that attacked him last week? Was it Chris Jericho? Jericho was at the scene. He considers Jericho to be the prime suspect and said that Jericho will always be known as an asshole. This led to the Inner Circle coming out. No Sammy Guevara. Jericho said, "Happy birthday, Matt," but then added, "Who gives a shit?" Then Jericho said that Matt put Sammy Guevara out of AEW. But it was a swerve. Sammy was actually there. Sammy came out. All is good with the Inner Circle. All 5 guys reunited again. They even did their hug, the Sammy and Jericho hug with the smiles. Jericho said he's the million-viewer man. Think about that. Jericho bragging about getting 1 million viewers. You know, not 10 million viewers or 5 million. 1 million viewers is a cause for celebration in 2020. But hey, the demos, so I'll shut up. We had Jericho talk about how he did not hit Matt with the bat last week, but he could do it right now if Matt wants. Matt was ready to fight even though he's not cleared. However, Mark Quinn of Private Party, he wanted a piece of Chris Jericho, but then Isaiah Cassidy interrupted and said he wants a piece of Jericho and officially challenged Jericho to a match for next week's show. And he said, what if this guy from the Bronx beats Chris Jericho? What if he makes Jericho his bitch? Jericho did accept the challenge in a promo later on the show. Private Party, I get it. You're trying to build up these guys, but it was a little rough. Like the promos were technically okay from them, but they just lack the fire. I think, you know, they're really good in the ring, and maybe they'll grow over time, but the delivery with the promos I thought was just okay. And Jericho's trying to make these guys stars and give them the rub. I get it. We had Tony Schiavone in the ring with FTR, and basically Tully Blanchard said that they are going to make their own rules now. They're going to change the rules. 20-minute time limit on television. And in addition to that, FTR get to pick their opponents. And in addition to that, if the people that challenge FTR do not beat them in 20 minutes, FTR automatically wins the match. Mike Garcia with a $2 super chat. Thank you for that, Mike. I appreciate it. He says, I quit watching wrestling years ago. Just wanted to say hi. Thank you for tuning in, Mike. I appreciate you watching, even if you're not following wrestling. And believe me, Mike, you're not the only person that has said that. Hell, I've had numerous people tell me that they are more interested in watching The Masked Singer than NXT and AEW. So as great as NXT and AEW have been over the past year, and NXT several years, I mean, that's the state that we're in right now, where people are more interested, diehard wrestling fans are more interested in watching The Masked Singer than NXT and AEW. And we got 66 people watching this live right now. A year ago, I had 200 people watching the AEW and NXT recaps. So, I mean, I'm probably losing my popularity, but at the same time, seems like fewer people are interested in wrestling right now. Even though AEW and NXT have been putting on great shows. And of course, the pandemic, even with fans back at a limited capacity at AEW, it's still not the same. Thunderdome is cool and all, but it's not the same. And as Nick says, COVID doesn't help. It's a tough time. We all got to ride out the storm, and hopefully once fans are able to come back in droves, we'll be able to build up the brands and get people watching wrestling again. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the next 6 months to a year for people to really get fully invested in the brands again, no matter how good the shows are. It's a rough road for everybody. And I have to keep working hard to get people tuning in to watch these live streams. It's a challenge. And Austin Smith, I appreciate it. He says you still have the best wrestling channel. I appreciate that, especially when there's like a million wrestling YouTube channels out there to choose from. I appreciate you guys for tuning in, even if I'm critical of the shows, which, you know, it is my job. But I try to be as positive as possible. Anyways, back to AEW. Went on a little bit of a rant there. We had Best Friends come out after FTR basically called them backyard wrestlers. And Trent said what happened last week was not a match. It was a war. And he said that they want to do the 20-minute challenge right there on the spot. Harwood said get a ref out there, but then when a referee came out, FTR pulled the heel card and said, nah, we're not doing it. And Chuck got on the mic and said at least Santana and Ortiz did not run away from a fight. Next week, it's going to be SCU, the first AEW Tag Team Champions, up against FTR in a 20-minute match. And Raging Chaos says, are you preferring NXT or AEW right now? To be totally honest with you, I'm pretty down on NXT right now. Not that the shows are bad or anything. It just, I need to focus on one show on Wednesday nights. I tried for a while to do both, and maybe it's partly due to COVID and the overall lack of interest. But yeah, I feel like I need to focus on one show for the time being. I may go back once COVID is a thing of the past, and that might be a while. But yeah, if it's one or the other, I'm going with AEW. AEW is a strong product. Oftentimes the best show of the week, and Dynamite is AEW's A show. NXT is WWE's C show. As good as it can be, NXT is still the third brand. So if I'm going to pick one, it's going to be AEW. Moving on here, we had Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa up against Ivelisse and Diamante. And the babyfaces turned their backs on the heels. And even JR had to take a shot at Rosa and Shida for not paying attention. He said, the Road Warriors would not do something like that, turn their backs to their opponents. Ouch. That was pretty brutal there from JR. I mean, they were paying tribute to the Road Warriors, of course, you know, bringing them up. But yeah, it's true. Road Warriors would rarely turn their backs on their opponents, that's for sure. Match was okay. Nothing special in my opinion. There was a tease of dissension between Rosa and Shida where Rosa hit Shida with a knee strike, but Shida was able to recover from that, and she pinned Diamante to pick up the win for her team, and Rosa and Shida held up their titles after the match, and I guess that storyline continues. We'll probably see another match between them, but this time it'll be for the NWA title. Too Sweet Cosplay, Steve-O, who was on our predictions video, says, both are good, but I like AEW on Wednesday for something outside of WWE. That too, AEW has a different feel than WWE, which is good. NXT, it does feel a bit different from WWE, or Raw and Smackdown, I should say, but the point is, it's still WWE. And you could still see certain aspects of the show, the production, that feels like a WWE show, which sometimes can be a good thing. Sometimes when you have a million camera cuts, it's not a good thing. But yeah, AEW has a different feel to it, which makes it feel fresher than NXT. We had Chris Jericho accept the challenge against Isaiah Cassidy for next week's show, and he said that One day Isaiah will be a big star, but it's not going to be next week. And then MJF approached Chris Jericho. They started kissing up to each other, calling each other great, but then they both said at the same time, so why are you calling me a loser then? MJF said he was actually calling the limo driver a loser, and Jericho said he was calling Tony Schiavone a loser. So I like this. This was actually, I think, my favorite part of Dynamite. This Chris Jericho MJF back and forth. I actually got a kick out of this. Even though it was a bit silly with both of them using the same line at the same time. It was a little cheesy and over the top, but I liked it. It put a smile on my face, which means I'm entertained, I'm having a good time, and that's ultimately what the goal of the show should be. And they did announce in 2 weeks it will be the 30-year anniversary of Chris Jericho. I guess they're beating Undertaker to the punch if WWE's planning something for Survivor Series. I don't know if they are or not, but one would think they would do that for Survivor Series. 30-year anniversary of Chris Jericho since his debut in wrestling. That will be in 2 weeks on Dynamite. And then in 3 weeks, it will be the 1-year anniversary of Dynamite. And people in the chat room are talking about NXT and AEW, how they should be on separate nights. I agree. I completely agree with that. It would be easier for me. I've said this before. I could focus on one show each night. They're not going to recreate Raw versus Nitro. They went head-to-head for a while, but both shows, I think, are better off on separate nights at this stage of the game. The question is, will WWE budge? AEW ain't going to move. It's going to be NXT if there's a move made. The question is, can Triple H and Vince put their egos in check and do it? That remains to be seen. Mike Garcia with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Mike. He says, were you ever cool with Wrestling Jesus or Bruce Blitz? I'm actually Facebook friends with Wrestling Jesus. He's a very good guy, so I'm down with him. I've never met him before in person, but he's a nice guy. I like him. We had Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston in our main event. The two of them exchanged chops for a while. They brawled on the outside, and then we had our final commercial break. After the break, they traded some more blows back and forth. JR actually called this bowling shoe ugly, which is his old terminology for the matches crappy. I thought the match was fine, but Eddie Kingston, I like him as a promo. I think he's a really good talker. As a wrestler, he's all right. But he doesn't really do anything to me that stands out. He trades chops back and forth with Moxley. He's pretty tough. He's a tough guy, but I just feel he's better. His strongest attribute where he stands out is his verbal skills. So I think the focus should be on Eddie Kingston as a manager, in my opinion. Moxley did pick up the win with his submission move. I'm not sure what it's called. Kingston did not tap out. He passed out. After the match, the Lucha Brothers, his allies, came out, attacked Moxley. Will Hobbs, the newcomer, made the save, but he got hit with a double super kick. And then finally, Darby Allin came out with a skateboard to make the save. Eddie Starks then ran in with a spear, laid out Allin, and Taz came to the ring and everybody beat down the baby faces, and that was the end to this week's Dynamite. Too Sweet Cosplay says, Eddie is good in the ring, but his mic work is his biggest strength, hands down. I agree on that. When I heard him on NWA Power, I was like, holy cow, this guy can cut a hell of a promo. And I never even saw anything from him in Impact. Granted, I didn't really follow Impact very closely, but I did see clips of him, and nothing about him ever stood out. But then when he came out on NWA Power, I was like, whoa, this guy can really talk. And that was one of the great things about NWA Power, letting those guys come out there and cut promos. The promos were awesome on NWA. I definitely missed that show. And I'll check it out again whenever they reboot with fans again. So Dynamite this week, I thought last week was a better show, and last week I thought was a good Dynamite, but I wasn't quite as crazy about it as some people on the internet. Main event was awesome, and I did say it was a great match, but it wasn't one of the all-time greatest matches in wrestling history. I still thought it was a damn good main event. Very, very fun parking lot brawl. I gave that show a B-, and I think this was a weaker Dynamite, so gonna be unpopular here, but going with a C+ for Dynamite. Another okay show, which AEW set the bar so high. Let's put it that way. AEW set the bar so high, a C+ is still better than most Raws and Smackdowns. Let's be real here. It was still a good show. But for AEW, just okay in my opinion. Austin Smith gives it a C-. CC Drink with a C+. Shady Snake with an A-. Power Packers 90, who's always been high on AEW, gives it an A-. Harley gives it a C. Mike B with a C+. Bruce Marvel says B for both shows. Nick Glavin gives it a B, and Jeremy Dorset gives it a B-. And Nathan Washington with a B. Let's talk about NXT, and then I'll talk about Road Warrior Animal and the Legion of Doom. Mike Garcia with a $2 super chat. Thank you, Mike. Says, have you ever lived in Northern California? Going off topic here, but I'll answer it. Thoughts on it? I have not lived in Northern California, but I've been there numerous times. I love Santa Cruz. I love the Bay Area. It's a great place, but it's very expensive to live there. Hence, I never considered living there. And it's too crowded, like most parts of California. Power Packers 90 says I skipped his super chat. Okay. Power Packers 90, sorry about that. He says, both WWE, NXT, and AEW are ice cream compared to Raw. Yes, very much so. I completely agree, especially this week. Comparing this week's AEW to Raw this week was like comparing ice cream to horse manure, and I'm sure some of you know that reference. All right, so we'll talk about NXT here real quick. We had the Women's Battle Royal. Candice LeRae was the only one that got an entrance, and there was footage shown of her attacking Tegan Nox and injuring her. Sure enough, no swerve here. Candice LeRae, she got her entrance, and she won the match, which I'm happy about. I like Candice. I think she's definitely one of the bigger stars in NXT and potentially could be a big star in the main roster. I've always been high on her going back to PWG, and this is like 13, 14 years ago. Candice will be facing Io Shirai at the TakeOver pay-per-view. I like it. I would not mind a title change, I'm just saying. And we had an announcement that Damian Priest would be facing Johnny Gargano for the North American title. No surprise there. I figured Johnny would be in the NA title picture at this point in time. We then had Kyle O'Reilly emerging victorious in the main event gauntlet match, which was between 5 guys that you would not expect to be in the NXT world title picture. So yeah, it's going to be Kyle O'Reilly versus Finn Balor. I'm happy for Kyle O'Reilly, let me just say that, but as good as this match will be, I'm sure, man, that just does not feel like a big marquee match. I mean, Kyle O'Reilly, he's been a tag team wrestler. He's part of Undisputed Era, but yeah, this is out of left field. I mean, this is almost like Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns, but at least you got that storyline with Roman Reigns becoming a badass and his history with Jey. But yeah, it just feels like a filler match. I mean, I really don't think anybody believes Kyle O'Reilly has a chance in hell of beating Finn Balor for the title. Interesting choice, but hey, they're doing something different, so I guess there's a positive in that. And Nick Lavin says, where are all the mods tonight? Either asleep or watching The Masked Singer. I mean, that's what it's come down to. People are watching The Masked Singer, and you had another show premiere tonight. I'm not sure what it's called. You got Big Brother. There's all these other shows, and yeah, that seems to be what people are talking about right now. And Ken terminated by Google is still MIA. Ken terminated, period. All right, so before I go here, I'll talk about Road Warrior Animal. He passed away last night, early Wednesday morning, somewhere around that time, at the age of 60. And what's really sad about it is that yesterday was his wedding anniversary. They were in Missouri for their wedding anniversary. His wife called the police, and he was reportedly deceased when they arrived. This is according to TMZ. 60, I mean, it's better than most wrestlers that have died young, but 60 is still pretty young. My mom is past 60, and I still like to think she's relatively young. It's sad to see somebody not live into their 70s or 80s. However, he lived quite the life. Road Warriors, one of the greatest tag teams of all time. They're in my top 10 for sure. I think when I did my video last year about the greatest tag teams in WWE history, they were at my number 5. I mean, they're certainly up there towards the top, and as far as all time goes, they got to be up there towards the top. They dominated everywhere. NWA Tag Team Champions, AWA Tag Team Champions, and of course, WWE Tag Team Champions. And they were rock stars. When they came out there, they got the Road Warrior pop. They had the look. They were charismatic. They were intense, in your face. Not the greatest wrestlers in the world, but that's not what got you excited. You wanted to see them come out there and just beat up people. And that's what they did. They beat the shit out of people, and it was fun to watch. Great finisher, of course, the Doomsday Device, iconic. Very sad. Rest in peace, Animal. And he actually did a podcast on Monday night after Raw, and he seemed fine. I looked at footage of it, and he's just there talking about retribution, and he dies 24 hours later. Yeah. Very much out of nowhere. He was active on social media. He seemed to be in good health, but you never know. Yeah. Very, very, very depressing to hear about that. LOD, childhood icons for me. I had the Wrestling Buddies. You guys have seen the Wrestling Buddies in my videos. Those of you that have been following for years, I would have them in the background. And he will be missed. LOD definitely missed. And we've seen WWE try to recreate LOD over the years. Authors of Pain. You had the Ascension. You had the Viking Raiders that are kind of like LOD. You know, these two big tough guys coming out there and just beating people up. But LOD, they were something special. And it just something you cannot recreate. It had that organic build where they just came out there and they caught on with the people. C. Butler with a $2 super chat says, just make me a mod, Road Warriors forever. Well, I will definitely consider that. If you guys in the chat room have any suggestions, leave a comment as far as possible moderators for the chat. Since the current moderators are nowhere to be found, I'll have to look into maybe bringing in some new blood as far as moderators go in the chat room. Anyways, guys, thank you for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed the video. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. Find out what T-Bar said about CM Punk. Not me, of course. I'm Aaron T-Bar Rift. That's my actual middle name. Power Packers 90 with a $2 super chat, throwing his hat his name in the hat. Says he wants to be a moderator too. I will take it under consideration. And the game is on 100 with a $2 super chat. Says, bad day for the road, for RD, for Road Warrior Animal and Gail Sayers, RIP. Yes, RIP to both of them. I'm not familiar with Gail Sayers, but RIP to him as well. Take care, everybody. Great chat tonight. Stay positive, be safe, and I will see you all next time.